Hi guys, James at Rampant Lion Reviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one we are going to head back to America once again, and we're going to revisit the state of Oklahoma and a brewery that I only introduced you guys to for the first time a couple of weeks back. But I was very impressed with the beer that I tried from. I think it was about 2 months ago maybe that I tried my first beer from these guys. And this is another beer that was very kindly sent to me by Chris Contreras, who's an American who watches the channel in Belgium. So a huge thank you to Chris once again for sending this beer over to me. So for this one we are going to return to Prairie Artisan Ales, and this time we are having a taste of the Bomb. So this one is a 13% Imperial Stout, and it's brewed with espresso beans, chocolate, vanilla beans and ancho chili peppers, and it has a very high rating. On Rate Beer this one has a 99 overall and a 100 within the style. On Beer Advocate it's rated as outstanding, I guess you would say, and on Untappd it's rated well into the 4 stars as well. So it should be a really awesome beer, and this is one of the really hyped ones from this brewery, who are of course particularly known for their sour beers and for their Imperial Stouts. So very curious to see how this one turns out, and as always I hope you guys enjoy my take on this beer. I have to say I haven't had too many Chilli Imperial Stouts, but this is one that I've heard is very special. So again, a huge thank you to Chris for making this review possible. It's always cool when you get fans like that are sending you some of the beers that they would really love to see you review. So very much looking forward to this one, and as always I hope you guys watching enjoy my take on this one. So anyway, as is usual with my reviews then, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery. If you want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other reviews that I've done from Prairie Artisan Ales before. That one, the only one I've done so far was the Paradise, which was a lovely kind of sweeter Imperial Stout. Hopefully I can add some more in the near future. There's all the usual social media. If you want to see more beer reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The whole channel of course has a geography based tagging system, so you can go into the homepage and search for beer based on country, city, state, county, prefecture, whatever it is you're interested in. Do check out the playlists of beers from different countries. There is one there for all the American beers that I've reviewed for you. That's constantly being added to, and as always please do get in touch and let me know some of the other beers and breweries that you guys would like to see me review. It's always great to hear from you guys that are watching the videos, and the support that you show the channel is hugely appreciated. So anyway, to tell you a little bit about Prairie Artisan Ales then. So as I've told you before, Prairie Artisan Ales are based in Tulsa in Oklahoma, and they were founded by brothers Colin and Chase Healy. So the company was founded back in 2012 with the help of Krebs Brewing Company, where the brothers were contract brewing their beers. But initially they focused on the brewing of farmhouse and sour beers, but they really shot to fame quite early on with their stouts, and they did a number of collaborations with other well-known gypsy brewers such as Evil Twin, who of course we know, Jeppe Jarnetbjerg, so he's a very good stout brewer. But they now have their Prairie Brew Pub, which is in the Brady district of Tulsa, as well as tap rooms in McAllister and Oklahoma City, both of course in Oklahoma State. But in 2015 they produced around 2,500 US barrels of beer, and then later in 2016 the Prairie Artisan Ales brand was bought by the Krebs Brewery, who brew the chalk line of beers as well in Krebs in Oklahoma. But they also started canning their beers in the summer of 2018 as well, so very recently some of these beers have been beginning to move into cans. So yeah, a brewery that are very well known. Before I tasted this beer I didn't realise that it was a kind of brand now of another brewery, but we were getting the Prairie Artisan Ales quite early on. I remember seeing these back in sort of 2015, 2016, and it was another one of the American breweries that I just never got around to actually reviewing anything from. So it's cool to finally get around to reviewing one of these beers, and it seems to be very hyped actually. It's a little bit easier to get a hold of some of the Prairie Artisan Ales over in Japan, which was where I got my first one, compared to over here in Sweden. So this was one that I was very grateful that Chris was able to send me. So again, a huge thank you to him for being able to do that. And they've done a lot of different things with these. They've added, I think there's like Vanilla Bomb, there's Chili Bomb, there's a couple of other different versions of this where they've played around with the same recipe and sort of barrel aged it in different things and stuff like this. This seems to be a very popular base beer for them to play around with. So I'm very curious to try the original, and hopefully in the future I can try a few of the other variants of this one. So yeah, we'll see how we get on with this. But yeah, that's all you really need to know about the Prairie Artisan Ales company just now. If you want to learn a little bit more, of course, you can check out the brewery website in the description below, and you can follow them on Facebook and Untappd and things like that, and Instagram too, and that will keep you up to date with all the latest goings on and all the different beer releases that they have there. If you have a little look on the on their bar website it tells you all of the different things that they're releasing. From what I saw, the most recent beer that I saw from them was it was called Oh Fudge, and it was a sort of chocolate fudge Imperial Stout type thing, and it looked and sounded very, very interesting. So yeah, they're always experimenting with a lot of different things, so make sure you check that out. So yeah, let's get on to the actual tasting of this beer itself then. So as I told you at the start of the video, this one is a 13% Imperial Stout. It's brewed with espresso beans, chocolate, vanilla beans, and also some ancho chili peppers as well. So it should be a little bit of a monster. We can get rid of the brewery notes now, and we can actually get this beer out and get on with the tasting there. It says brewed and bottled by Krebs Brewing Company, Krebs, Oklahoma, and of course it's got some of this classic Prairie Artisan ales artwork on it. Really nicely presented, this one. I have to say I very much admire the artwork in this. Some of the old RAF roundels there, although I think that's a bit more of a slightly retro style artwork that you find all over the place. This one, by the looks of it, was I don't know if that's when it was bottled. Looks like it was bottled on it doesn't say really, actually. I'm not sure. It says 01519. I'm not sure exactly what that would be. If it's the or if it's best before the 1st of May 2019, perhaps. I'm not sure. But yeah, there you can see the fish that they normally have on the bottle there, and the coffee that they've used in this one is from the Spaceship Earth Coffee Company too. So yeah, really interesting. But without further ado then, let's get this guy out and we will get on with the tasting. As I said to you earlier on, I've not reviewed too many in the way of Imperial coffee stouts, so I'm really curious just to see how this one, sorry, not Imperial coffee stouts, Chilli stouts I should say. I've reviewed a good number of coffee stouts, and as I've mentioned to you before, in Sweden we have the Dugas Brewery, who are producing some absolutely incredible coffee stouts in recent times. So I'm really curious to see how a coffee chili Imperial Stout turns out. But yeah, as you can see with this beer then, it's poured a lovely dark ebony rosewood colour, and you can see there's a lovely solid half finger of a frothy, I would say very dark tan head on this one. One or two big bubbles sticking towards the side of the glass, and a few little ones just heading up towards the bottom of that head there. But you know, overall looks pretty nice. Nothing overly surprising about this beer in terms of its appearance when you consider that it is an Imperial Stout. It looks the part and it smells very, very nice. When you open this beer up, you get a lovely waft of very sweet aromas, both from the coffee and from the chocolate. But a lovely, lovely looking beer, this one. Definitely a big black ebony rosewood colour. You can just see how dark the head on that is there. I think it's not coming out quite as dark as it actually is on the camera, just when I'm looking down at the control on my phone here. But yeah, lovely looking beer, this one. So let's take a closer look at the aroma and just see how we get on. Oh, I'll tell you straight away, that smells absolutely lovely. One thing I've always said about these coffee Imperial Stouts, the coffee just adds this insane kind of complexity to your beer. I'm not a big coffee drinker, and I never drink coffee pretty much actually, outside of some of these big coffee Imperial Stouts, but you really appreciate when you try it in some of these beers, how complex the different coffee beans can be. Some of them can be really earthy, some of them can be very floral, some of them can be really quite aromatic and grassy and things like that, and some of them can be very, very fruity. Some of them are also a little bit more roasty than others too. It's a really interesting kind of adjunct that you can actually add into the beers. And for me, the coffee bean that's in this one, it's very, very smooth, but at the same time it's got a little bit of that raw kind of dark earthiness to it. Maybe there's a little touch of an aromatic quality to it, but I'd say it's more of a smooth coffee that's coming out of this one. Nice earthiness in there, and it mixes very well with the chocolate. There's a lot of sweet chocolate in this beer for me. It's got an element of a milky chocolate in there as well. You can pick up some of the high cocoa, darker chocolates in the aroma here, but there is a good element of a milky note in there. But maybe that's the vanilla that's kind of accenting that a little bit. I've always found when you add vanilla into Imperial Stouts, it makes the chocolate part of the beer, the chocolate components, just come across as being a little bit more kind of like milk chocolate rather than anything else. So just bear that in mind when you actually take in the aroma of this beer. It is really, really nice. So yeah, there's no real brown sugar to this one. Sometimes with these Imperial Stouts you can get a little bit of brown sugar, but lots of sweet vanilla, like I was saying. The coffee in this is just lovely and smooth, and as I say, it blends very well with these kind of chocolatey notes in there. I'm not getting too much in the way of the chilies. You can pick up a little bit of an almost spicy note in the aroma, but for me, the aroma, this one's a lovely, smooth coffee quality. Like I say, it's a bit more of an earthy, toasty coffee, this one, but it does come across as very, very smooth. Big, more milky chocolate notes in this one, although that said, you can pick out some of the higher cocoa notes in there. And you've also got a lovely smooth vanilla quality to this beer as well. A little touch of earthiness from the hops, I think, but very, very minimal. And you can also pick out a little bit of a slightly candied red fruit ester in there as well. Yeah, it's got a little touch of a kind of figgy note to it, and a little bit of a kind of candied strawberry or candied black currant or something along these lines. But yeah, it's a lovely aroma in this one. As I always say, take a little bit of time and just enjoy the aroma of the beer before you get stuck into it. And with this one in particular, I think you're in for a real treat. This is definitely one of the sweeter and kind of smoother Imperial coffee stouts that I've come across. Like I said, I haven't reviewed too many Chilli stouts because it's not my favourite kind of sub-style, if you like, of the Imperial stouts, but I'll go into this one with an open mind and just and see how we get on with this one. So let's just have a taste of this one then. This is the Bomb, a 13% Imperial stout from Prairie Artisan Ales in Krebs in Oklahoma. It's part of the Krebs Brewing Company, and of course it's brewed with chocolate, vanilla beans, espresso beans, and also a little bit of ancho chili peppers. Let's get stuck into this one. Slàinte, skål. Oh yeah. What I'll say about this beer is that it's very, very well blended. You know, the Chilli, I've had a couple of Nerd Brewing here in Sweden, of course, are very, very well renowned for their Imperial stouts, and they have done a couple of them that have chilies in them, but they do give you a little bit more warmth than this. But again, I think I said at the time, those beers are very, very well blended as well. For me, the way that they've got this blended in is very nice. The chili quality of this beer, it's just very, very subtle. You just get a very, very slight warmth at the back of your throat there, which is nice. It really is a real subtlety to this beer, in fact. Yeah, I like what they've done with this. This one definitely leans towards the more roasty, toasty side of the Imperial Stout spectrum, but it's got a lovely, it really just has a lovely edge to it. The coffee notes are very, very smooth. You get that gentle heat from the chili there at the back of the throat. It really is. It's a very, very well blended stout, this one, but at the same time it doesn't feel overly complex, which is nice. And as I've said this in a couple of videos in recent times as well, sometimes keeping it simple and just seeing how the flavours blend together is the best path that you can take. They've done a really, really nice job with this beer. Yeah, I like how they've put this one together. It's just nice how everything sort of blends together in this beer. As I say, a big thumbs up to Prairie Artisan Ales on this one. Maybe I need to try a few more kind of chili Imperial stouts and try and find ones that are as well blended as this, but as I say, these guys are a very, very well regarded producer of Imperial Stout, so it's quite hard to beat these guys. I know that the likes of Evil Twin and stuff can match these, and there are a few other breweries out there whose names aren't quite coming to me now, but this is a solid Imperial Stout. So again, a huge thank you to Chris for sending this one to me and letting me try it. It really is bloody good, and I can see why he wanted me to try it. So yeah, let's try and break this flavour down a little bit then. In the middle of your palate, you can feel this, there is a little bit of that roasty black malt, that just blankets the middle of the tongue. On top of that, you can really feel the chocolatey quality. It's almost just like the chocolate blankets the middle of your palate, and the vanilla just helps smooth the whole thing out. You can feel the roasty black malts the further you go into the aftertaste. It's almost like the palate just dries out slightly, but not dramatically. There is just a little slight drying of the palate on this one the further you go into the flavour, and that lovely chocolatey quality is on top of it. It's more of a dark chocolate quality in there, but at the same time you get a smoother You definitely get a little bit of a smoother, milkier chocolate to this, and when you come further forward on the palate, that's where you start to get a little bit of the kind of vanilla notes coming out of this one too. Yeah, the vanilla is definitely coming out a little bit more towards the front of the palate of this beer. It's got a very nice, quite simple backbone to it, and it works very, very well. The coffee, again, the palate of this beer, middle of your palate just dries out a little bit, and when you've seen how long it was since I took a sip of this beer now, when you start to let the beer dry out a little bit, that's when you start to get these kind of espresso bean coffee flavours out of this one. As I said, it's a very, very smooth coffee, this one. It's got a little bit of an earthiness to it, but it's also got some aromaticity too. You can feel a little bit of that aromatic quality just coming off the middle of your tongue too, some kind of floral notes in there. It's really nice actually. There is a good bit of flavour to the coffee in this one. It's a very, very well blended beer, this, in terms of the way the malt base comes out, although the adjuncts all blend together really quite well. The chili side of things, I'm not sure if there's too much in the way of a chili flavour in the middle of the tongue. You can pick up a little bit of it, and I think that's contributing to the way that the middle of your palate dries out slightly. As I said, the way that the palate dries out in this one is not dramatic. It's quite subtle, but you do get a little bit of a chilly warmth at the very back of your throat there, and also a little touch down here, but I'm guessing some of that might be due to alcohol warmth as well. At 13%, this beer is a little bit of a beast in that sense, so just be aware of that when you drink this one. But the thing is, with this beer, you'd think this is going to be one that's like ridiculously complex and things like that, but to me, it's one that they've kept remarkably simple. The amount of adjuncts in this one can add a whole lot of complexity to the beer, but it's all about how these flavours blend together well, but they've kept it simple and it just works, so that's what makes me want to give it a big thumbs up, you know, and they've just done a nice job with it, and it's that simple. So, on the hoppy side of things then, back corners of the palate, there's a little touch of earthiness there. As you come further forward, the earthiness sort of smooths out a little bit. It does have a little bit of dryness in the back corners of the palate, but as you come further forward along the sides of the tongue, you can just feel that smooth out a little bit. That builds a good bridge between the coffee side of the beer and also the kind of earthy hops. There's a good bridge there building up between two of the sort of bitter qualities of the beer, but as you get towards the front kind of corners of the palate, you can pick up that there's a little touch of a floral note to it, and then round the very front curve of the tongue it's a little bit lighter and grassy, but the grassiness there is pretty smooth, I have to say, and behind the front curve of the palate, that's where you get some of these nice juicy fruity esters popping out of the beer as well. Yeah, it's nice. The more and more you sip of this, the more the chilli warmth you start to get out of it. I can really feel that at the back of my throat now, and it's blended in so well. You don't get too much in the way of heat out of this one, and that's one of the things that I always was a bit concerned about when it came to chili beers. I've had a couple of chili IPAs and stuff, and they're just not for me, definitely not. But when it comes to the Imperial Stouts, the chilies can work really quite well. I've never been such a great fan of hugely spicy food. I like a little bit of spice, but not a huge amount. Maybe it's something I need to kind of build my palate up towards a little bit. But the spice that you get out of this one is very nice. It just adds a real subtlety to this beer. But as I say, behind the front curve of the palate, you get that nice oily bubble where those juicy fruity esters start to come out of the beer. And for me, this one it has a nice balance between the red fruits and some of the berries and things like that. Yeah, in the beginning, it has a little touch of a, pardon me, a little bit of the warmth coming out again there. It has a little touch of an almost, I don't think it's quite plums, it's got a little touch of a raisiny sharpness to it, but then it very quickly smooths out to be a sort of figgy quality as well, which is really interesting. And the further you go into the aftertaste with this one, it evolves to be more of a kind of blackberry, kind of candied strawberry sort of thing. It's got a lot of nice little candied fruit flavours to it, this one. But when you go in further into the aftertaste, the vanilla starts to come out a little bit more, the chocolate, the sweeter side, and it gives the vanilla gives the chocolate a little bit more of a kind of milky edge to it, I would say. But you can also feel some of the black malts pushing their way out and some of the chili warmth also. So I think this beer, in some ways, it does get a little bit more bitter the further into the aftertaste you go. But like I said, this is a very, very nice beer, this one, and I can see why there was quite a little bit of hype surrounding this one. So if you get the chance to try this, definitely have a go at it. And I would say about this beer, one of the really cool things about it is that it has opened my mind a little bit more to Chilli Imperial Stouts. I know that Brewdog back in Scotland were doing a number of these back in the day, but I just never fancied them. I think it was the Dog A, B, C and D and stuff like that that they were doing. It was just, they were just beers that never sparked my fancy, to be quite honest with you. But this one has definitely made me rethink a little bit, so maybe I'll need to have a go at the next dog beer that they release and just see how that turns out. You know, Brewdog, as I say, I've been concerned about their IPA output recently, but the Imperial Stouts have still remained pretty good quality, I would say. But for me, this is a very, very nice beer, and if you get the chance to try it, I really recommend that you would. It's one of these Imperial Stouts that is high in alcohol. You'd expect it to be ridiculously complex, but it's still, it does well at keeping things simple and just letting these kind of flavours blend together very, very nicely, and you can't ask for much more than that out of this. In terms of the mouthfeel then, I would say yeah, full-bodied beer, this one, but not the heaviest of Imperial Stouts that you're going to come across. It's at the bottom end of full-bodied. Carbonation's very smooth. The mouthfeel has an element of creaminess to it, but at the same time there's also a little touch of oiliness in there. Not too much in the way of IBUs to this beer. I think you're lucky if you're about, maybe it's about 50. It's by no means is it going to blow the head off you in terms of its IBU count. You've got a little bit of warmth from the chili in this one, as you would expect. The malt base and the adjuncts are really giving this beer a kind of sweet backbone, which is quite nice. It does dry out a little bit the further you go into the flavour. The hops, as I say, not too much in the way of IBUs. Sweet malt base, a little bit of warmth from it, but you've also got a little touch of a juicy fruit in there as well. But you know, overall, a very, very nice beer, this one, and I certainly wouldn't hesitate to drink it again. But that said, it is a little bit of a treat, this, you know. This is one that you would, if you had a nice sort of black peppered steak or something like that, you know, I think this is one that would go really, really well with a nice kind of big black pepper steak or something like that. I think this is a good sort of meat beer or a dessert beer after you've had a big steak like that, or you know, something around that. I'm not an expert when it comes to food pairing beers. I like just tasting the beers on their own and talking about the flavour of them. I've never been too much into the food pairing side of things, but I think this one would go like really nicely with a sort of pepper cured steak or something like that. A lovely beer, this, and I'm really glad I was able to review it for you. So a huge thank you to Chris Contreras for sending this one up from Belgium for me. So yeah, let's leave it at that. This one was the Bomb, an Imperial Stout at 13% from Prairie Artisan Ales, brewed with, to make sure I'm getting it right, coffee, cocoa nibs, vanilla beans and chili peppers. Just an absolute beast of a beer, and I can see why this is a particular beer that gets a hell of a lot of hype. It's just very, very nicely done. So once again, thank you for watching my beer reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comments section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from Prairie Artisan Ales as well, and hopefully I can return to these guys in the fairly near future. Until the next time, Slange just now, and I'll catch you guys very soon. The Bomb from Prairie Artisan Ales, in part of the Krebs Brewing Company in Krebs, Oklahoma, over in America. Until the next time, Slange just now, and I'll catch you guys later. Slange, skull.